So I'm Jonathan Smith, the London Fire Commissioner, and it's really, really important this year's AFSA conference because if you look at the world at the moment, it's a very, very complicated and at times scary place. And I think the ability of fire and rescue services and public sector organisations more broadly to try and steer a path through a lot of uncertainty is why this type of networking event where we can share ideas, we can talk about leadership. The theme today is around building trust. Well, building trust in organisations like the London Fire Brigade, but also fire and rescue services more broadly, is going to be critical to how we meet the challenges of the 21st century, because it is difficult and dangerous work now, being in the fire and rescue service, arguably more so than it was 20, 30 years ago, because the types of incidents that we're now dealing with are different. The impact of climate change, the impact of new and emerging technology, a complicated built environment, the threat from terrorism has not gone away anytime soon. So I think our ability to build that trust with the staff that work for the organisation, but with the general public as well, is key. And that's where AFSA has been a key ally, both for the London Fire Brigade and the sector more broadly, helping us discuss issues around leadership. What do we mean by culture? How does everyone flourish in a modern, forward-thinking organisation? So it's a real privilege to be here. In my opinion, building trust is all about living by example. So I can sit here and I can talk about what I think a really great culture within an organisation looks like. But if I don't walk that walk, if I don't demonstrate through my everyday actions and behaviours every day, then actually doesn't mean anything. So from the very, very senior leadership all the way through the organisation, we actually have to live the values that we stand by, and we have to demonstrate it, because we can write nice strategy documents, we can have all the nice posters on the wall that talk about the organisation that we want to be. But if we don't live and breathe it every single day, then it doesn't mean anything. And we have to create an environment where people feel safe and secure at work. The term psychological safety is often bandied around. Well, what does that actually mean? It means people feel safe to be themselves at work. And there's a really, really important part to that, because unless people feel safe at work, we're not going to get the best from them. And because firefighting today is more complicated than it's ever been, if we're not getting the best of people, then we're missing out. So there's a moral imperative here that people feel safe and secure at work, but there's also an organisational imperative that people can be their best selves, because when they are their best selves, guess what? We get better performance. So the two things go hand in hand. Well, a good leader is you start not from yourself, but you start from the people that you lead. So I've always been a big advocate that my boss, yes, it's the Mayor of London from a technical perspective, but actually it's everybody who works within the London Fire Brigade, and it's all of London and Londoners. That's your starter for 10. You're not here for yourself. You're actually here for the staff that work for you and actually the communities that you serve. And my job, I've always seen it, is creating the right environment to enable our staff to flourish. And then if we enable that to happen, guess what? We'll deliver a better fire and rescue services for the communities that we serve. So leadership really is often talked about, this servant type leadership, but that's how we should see it. It's not about you. It's about bringing out the very, very best in your teams. And I always have stuck to the rule that I surround myself with people far more capable than I am. And my job is to enable that capability to come to the fore. And if we see that at every level of leadership in the organisation, we won't go too far wrong. Well, AFSA really has been in the DNA of the London Fire Brigade in many ways since it came about 20 years ago, from very, very humble beginnings with 4 people with an idea, really having to push against a sector that probably hadn't quite understood the need for a networking organisation like AFSA. And I think to see where we are now, 20 years later, is phenomenal. And in many ways, the fire sector has never needed AFSA more than it does now. There's a lot of debate in politics, in society more broadly, around what do we mean by culture? What does it mean for people to feel themselves when they come to work? What do we mean by being British? What does it mean to work in the fire and rescue service? And I think a networking organisation like AFSA, intertwined with the history, first of all, of London Fire Brigade, and now the broader fire sector, is immense. And this type of conference, when I look at how professional it has become from such humble beginnings 20 years ago, it fills me with nothing but pride. And I think everyone who's had anything to do with AFSA, right from the beginning all the way through to where we are now 20 years later, should be really, really proud of that achievement. It's phenomenal. And I think when I look at the next 20 years, I see nothing but a positive direction of travel, both for AFSA and the fire and rescue services more broadly, because I think we understand that our histories are completely intertwined and we need it now more than we've ever done. So just on the theme of the professionalism of the AFRA conference, you can look at the brochure that you now have, and I was having this discussion earlier on before. It's one of the most professional things I've ever seen. When you read through it, when you look at the content, when you look at the quality of the speakers, when you look at the themes that are going to be discussed today, you really are hard pressed to see anything within the fire sector that comes close to it, and that's a phenomenal achievement. But I think the thing that makes it really, really special is those side conversations. It's the networking, it's the ability to reach out to people across many, many different fire and rescue services, but also other sectors. Those conversations that happen in the margins, in the sign lines, are absolutely critical. And that, hand in hand with such a professional conference, with all of the facilities that come with it, is what makes this such a success.